Alright, so let's talk about the latest stupid to come out of Marjorie Taylor Greene's mouth. And it's her call for a national divorce. Now, there's so much wrong with it. Now, first off, saw from Liz Cheney that it's unconstitutional. I don't know if it is, but personally, if states want to secede, I have no problem with that, as long as it's, peaceful. Not like what happened in the first Civil War, where a federal fort was attacked. No. So, definitely, if you want to peacefully secede, fine. I honestly don't care. My problem is her horrible logic, which anybody who follows this channel knows that I don't think she has much logic in that brain of hers anyway. So let's parse what she wants. First, she wants a national divorce by red and blue states. Okay, so much wrong here. First off, there are purple states, also known as swing states. So, swing states, what happens with them? That when they vote for one party, they join one country, and then when they decide that they want to vote for the other party, they change countries? I mean, seriously, how does that work? So we have swing states. So either they would form their own, that there would be 3 countries, red, blue, and purple. I mean, that already breaks down her logic of this nice, neat, break it down by red states and blue states. Okay, now what do you consider a red state? Do you consider a red state whoever voted for Trump in the last election? I've got bad news for you. Georgia voted for Biden. Despite your Messiah's claims that the election was stolen, Georgia went for Biden. So, by your logic, you would be staying in the union because that would be a part of the blue states. And why do I say that the blue states would be the original union? Because the area around the White House and plus DC is a blue area. So we would keep the federal government and that infrastructure. The red states would be the ones to secede. Now, so that's established. Now, if Georgia were to vote Republican in the next election, then I guess they would change countries. They would secede. So, again, and states change their minds. I mean, traditional red states have gone blue because they think that Trump is certifiably insane. But normally would vote Republican. So, and then she comes up with this idea that if you move from a blue state to a red state, you can't vote for 5 years because your values clash with the values of the red state. Okay, what about the other way around? Do people who move from red states to blue states also not be allowed to vote for 5 years? Or is that just for one way because you're showing your bias? Another problem with that is not everybody who lives in a red state is conservative, or definitely not mega conservative. And same thing with blue states. Not everybody who lives in a blue state is a liberal. So again, not viable. You're punishing people who, okay, we have this divorce. We somehow managed to figure out which states are leaving. Okay, great. So people who are conservative, who live in a liberal state, if they were to move to a red state, why punish them? Why punish them? Because they have your supposed values. So what are you accomplishing by telling them they can't vote? It makes zero sense. And again, and plus, not all Republicans are on board with Marjorie's national divorce. Liz Cheney, like I said it's unconstitutional, which I don't know. Maybe I just don't know the Constitution well enough, but I didn't believe it said that secession wasn't a thing, that you couldn't do that. But anyway, there are other Republicans who are still in the party, like, say, Mitt Romney, who don't agree with their plan. What happens to them? I mean, they're still Republicans. You might call them rhinos, but they still vote Republican. So how is that going on in your scheme? Do you treat them like the liberals and say they can't vote for 5 years because they're not sufficiently insane? Or there's just so much about her idea that's really, really stupid. I mean, it's dumber than most of her ideas, and that's saying a lot. So I just don't understand how she thinks this was gonna work. Even if a secession could be figured out based on red states and blue states, which again, swing states are a thing, so right there it falls on its face. Having people not being able to vote for 5 years because I assume that they're gonna get re-educated so they follow the rules and sufficiently follow and develop the values that they're supposed to have. I mean, even if I was a conservative, I would want to move to a blue state because I don't necessarily have to be as batshit insane as they are. I mean, what if there are plenty of conservatives who are conservative because they're fiscally conservative? And it has absolutely nothing to do with social issues. Like I mentioned before, a former Republican strategist, Tim Miller, he's gay. He and his partner have a black child. I'm pretty sure they would not want to be, actually, based on his interviews, he definitely wouldn't want to be living in a red state. Granted, he left the Republican Party. That's why I say former. Not just because he's a former strategist, he's a former Republican. He's independent now. And from what I've read, he's a fiscal conservative. But he certainly wouldn't want to live in a red state. I mean, not if he valued both his life, his partner's life, his marriage, and his daughter. Because all three of them, these mega goons, have a problem with. So, but if he were to move to a blue state, because he's not a liberal, he would be allowed to vote for 5 years? Well, actually, probably the liberal states wouldn't impose that ban because they're not insane. But there's another issue. Even if you weren't just a moderate Republican, in Tim Miller's case, he's an independent now because the Republican Party has gone completely off the rails. Okay, so what happens to him? I mean, he's, like I say, he's not going to live in a red state. And he's not going to probably feel, well, he's going to feel more comfortable in a blue state because, like I said, he's a social liberal. It's just that he's fiscally conservative. But that doesn't, that, what, so basically, then the independents would have to decide what is a bigger deal for them. Do they want to live in a socially conservative area because they shared the same fiscal values, or do they move to a blue state? Why do that to people? I mean, they can do that within this country. They do not need to then have to think about moving to a different country. And then when things become completely untenable for them to move to a different country, why do that to people? And seriously, you're basically telling people that we want just one party. Because what if, say, and this has happened, okay, parents are really, really socially conservative. I mean, horrible bigots, maybe members of the KKK or whatever, whatever bigoted group you want, and the kids are not. That they're not bigots, that they actually give a shit about minorities or whomever else, foreigners, minorities, whatever. So why do that to the family? That basically, and even at what point is it decided that this person is a liberal, so you have to leave the country? Are you going to deport these people? There is literally no good solution to this. Does it suck that you are, that, does it suck that you feel like you can't live the life you want? Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to be racist and, carry a gun with you because you want to show how tough you are, I mean, yeah, okay, fine. There are certain limits to that. Nobody, it's like that across the spectrum. Nobody can totally do what they want. They have to, for the most part, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people can't just do whatever they want. They can't, the bigots are whining because they're not allowed to impose their will on others, like, say, the CRT nonsense. Okay, so you don't want your kids to learn about racism. Okay, now, I'm sorry, but how is that not allowing you to live like you want? You want to be a fucking racist piece of shit? Fine, nobody is stopping you. You can be just as racist as you want. But there's going to be consequences for that. And we live in a society where, you have to deal with that. And let's face it, in those red states, there probably would be slavery. I mean, let's be frank. There is no black person who would be living in a red state who would be safe. They would have to come up to north because that's just the way it is, because that's living the life they want. Now, but that's not giving other people the right to live how they want. Because, first, like I said, they would probably want slavery, and I can't imagine there are many, if any, black people who would go for the slavery thing. They probably wouldn't. Granted, there might be some undocumented workers who would feel like this is an improvement to the life they escaped from. Maybe. I'm not going to say there isn't. But for how long? For how long are they going to feel that way until they realize, oh, this is forever. I'm not better off, and want to leave. So, yes, you can live your life the way you want, but others have the right to live life the way they want to. And when those things butt heads, I'm sorry, but that's just the way society works. Society has to allow for everybody to have some sort of happiness. And you can't do that if you impose your views on others. Now, for those who complain that that blue states are forcing wokeness on the red states, I did a video on this. Think about what that means. That means that you treat people with some sort of decency rather than acting like you're better than them because of whatever factor. How is that a bad thing? Like I said, you can be as racist as you want, but as long as it remains and views, your views, as opposed to forcing your views on other people. Fine, if you want to be a racist town and no black person wants to live there because it's a racist town, you don't get to whine and complain that, black people don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole. It's just not, actions have consequences. Viewpoints have consequences. And if you tell people that you see certain people as less than, then don't be so surprised when those people say, yeah, stay the fuck away from me. I want nothing to do with you. Now, you'd think that would be a reason for a national divorce. And like I said, if those red states want to secede, fine. That is perfectly fine by me. My problem is it's just untenable to go by red states. So even if that logic worked, there would be a constant rearranging of populations and that's assuming that your populace even wants a one-party rule. Because, okay, like I said, not all Republicans agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, what do you do there? Do you tell them, okay, you have to go to this other country? Hell, the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, which Republicans love to point out, were the ones who were against slavery. Because at some point around the civil rights movement, the policies, the platforms flipped. And the Republicans became the racist party, and the Democrats became the party of coexistence. So now, what happens in this national divorce when that happens again? I mean, it's just, none of this makes sense. And again, I'm rambling. So I will leave it there. And I will see you guys next time.